entire YouTube not to be receiving the stream. Okay, let me write this, write a message real quick to everyone else on YouTube. All right. So I sent a message out to everyone else on YouTube that's potentially waiting. Okay. All right, let's see here. I think whatever was going on, I'm finally through. I apologize. Thanks for watching me, everybody. So if YouTube just now started working for you, it's because I've actually been on for about 7 minutes and there was no indication that it was sending a stream out to YouTube. So just hold tight with me here real quick. I'm going to get some more feedback to find out if, or maybe some of you that supposedly are watching right now, if you could tell me that you're receiving me audio and video, I would greatly appreciate it, and then I can move on. I guess it's been a long enough time, and Restream is not exactly sure what to do. Yep, working great. Okay, all right. So it seems like we're live now, and I guess there was one glitch to be expected. So for those of you who have already been watching for a while, I apologize. I'm going to start over. So here we go. Welcome to the UFO Hub live stream. Today is supposed to be open lines. Or we already are starting off with a little glitch, but it seems like it corrected itself. And basically the reason why I've been out for a couple of weeks or more now is because I got hit either by lightning or some kind of surge from the storm buildup, and I figured out exactly what the issue was here. So anyway, I'll talk about that more later. I actually have Elisa, she graciously decided or graciously accepted my very, very short notice invitation. There's some videos I wanted to show you, but they're in Spanish, and I was hoping there was somebody there who could at least just listen to a clip and then translate of what we're watching. And she agreed to do that, so I'm very grateful to Elisa for that. And but I would like to actually start out with what exactly happened on, I think, what was that, July 26th on a Wednesday, which was the UFO hearing. So for those of you who have watched it or didn't get a chance to watch it or didn't watch the whole thing, what I basically am going to do right now is I found a clip that's actually kind of a good compilation of what was discussed. And it was, to hear this in Congress was actually awesome for me and anyone else that's been into the subject for a very long time, because they finally talking in those terms that we all were hoping government would talk about a long time ago. It's still in the very, very beginnings of this. You might like what was said, might not like what was said, but I figured just to give you an update, let me switch over and we'll start off with that clip. And so that this way it gives you a pretty good idea of what was discussed, what was exactly said. The American public. What was exactly said, and then we'll go from there. It's about 14 minutes long, so here we go.
The American public has a right to learn about technologies of unknown origins, non-human intelligence, and unexplainable phenomena. Those are not the words of a UFO Twitter account. Though that is a direct quote from Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, that the American public has a right to learn about technologies of unknown origins, non-human intelligence, and unexplainable phenomena. Many people distrust government and our institutions, and overclassification of information away from the American public or even Congress contributes to today's politics. They ask themselves, how come when a Russian jet shoots flares at one of our drones, we have perfect pictures and videos to show the American people and the world, but when it comes to UAPs, nothing? And to our military leaders, if there's nothing to conceal, let Congress go to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, the Dugway Proving Ground, or even Groom Lake in Nevada. We should have disclosure today. We should have disclosure tomorrow. The time has come.
And sometimes I know that you have also said some of these answers in the past, but we're trying to get them on the public record as well, which is really important. Mr. Grush, finally, do you believe that our government is in possession of UAPs?
Absolutely, based on interviewing over 40 witnesses over 4 years.
Do you have any personal knowledge of people who have been harmed or injured in efforts to cover up or conceal these extraterrestrial technology?
Yes. Personally.
Have anyone been murdered that you would that you know of or have heard of, I guess?
I have to be careful asking that question. I directed people with that knowledge to the appropriate authorities.
My next question would actually be for Mr. Graves. Can you please explain to me in detail the event that occurred at Vandenberg Air Force Base?
Certainly. In the 2003 timeframe, a large group of Boeing contractors were operating near one of the launch facilities at Vandenberg Air Force Base when they observed a very large 100-yard-sided red square approach the base from the ocean and hover at low altitude over one of the launch facilities. This object remained for about 45 seconds or so before darting off over the mountains. There was a similar event within 24 hours later in the evening. This was a morning event, I believe 8:45 in the morning. Later in the evening, post-sunset, there were reports of other sightings on base, including some aggressive behaviors. These objects were approaching some of the security guards at rapid speeds before darting off. And this is information that was received through one of the witnesses that have approached me at Americans for Safe Aerospace.
Was this documented in any official form, whether it was a police blotter?
Yes, they had official documentation and records from the event that the witness held over the years.
And I'm not going to ask you to do it right now for time reasons, but you'd be able to sketch what was witnessed, correct? And have you seen that before on any other equipment and/or during your flight time?
I have not seen what they've described. This object was estimated to be almost the size of a football field, and I have not seen anything personally that large.
A minute left. I apologize, we only have 5 minutes today, but for the record, if you were me, where would you look? Titles, programs, departments, regions, if you could just name anything. And I put that as an open question to the three of you.
I'd be happy to give you that in a closed environment. I can tell you specifically.
Thank you.
And so I think that's because I'm from Missouri. You've got to show me, right? With that being said, there's been a lot of things that have been said in the public, Mr. Grush, and so I want to get down to, if we can, some specifics, right? So at one point you had said that there has been harmful activity or aggressive activity. Has any of the activity been aggressive, been hostile in your reports?
I know of multiple colleagues of mine that got physically injured. And the activity, and I got
by UAPs or by people within the federal government?
both.
Okay,
Yeah.
so there has been activity by alien or non-human technology and or beings that has caused harm to humans.
I can't get into the specifics in an open environment, but at least the activity that I personally witnessed, and I have to be very careful here because they tell you never to acknowledge tradecraft, right? So what I personally witnessed, myself and my wife, was very disturbing.
Okay. One of my constituents actually sent this next question, and I figured I'd ask it since I had the same thought. You've said that the U.S. has intact spacecraft. You said that the government has alien bodies or alien species. Have you seen the spacecraft?
I have to be careful to describe what I've seen firsthand and not in this environment, but I could answer that question behind closed doors. Yeah.
And have you seen any of the bodies?
That's something I've not witnessed myself.
And with that being said, you have mentioned that there's interdimensional potential. Could you expound on that?
Yeah, to answer your first question, and I'm here as a fact witness and expert, but I will give you a theoretical framework, at least to work off, to kind of espouse crashes, regardless of your level of sentience, right? Planes crash, cars crash, n number of sorties, however high, a small percentage are going to end in mission failure, if you will, as we say in the Air Force. And then in terms of multidimensionality, that kind of thing, the framework that I'm familiar with, for example, is something called the holographic principle. It derives itself from general relativity and quantum mechanics, and that is, if you want to imagine a 3D object such as yourself casting a shadow onto a 2D surface, that's the holographic principle. So you can be projected, quasi-projected from higher dimensional space to lower dimensional. It's a scientific trope that you can actually cross, literally, as far as I understand, but there's probably guys with PhDs that we could probably argue about that.
But you
Several months ago, my office received a protected disclosure from Eglin Air Force Base indicating that there was a UAP incident that required my attention. I sought a briefing regarding that episode and brought with me Congressman Burchett and Congresswoman Luna. We asked to see any of the evidence that had been taken by flight crew in this endeavor and to observe any radar signature as well as to meet with the flight crew. We were not afforded access to all of the flight crew. And initially, we were not afforded access to images and to radar. Thereafter, we had a bit of a discussion about how authorities flow in the United States of America, and we did see the image. And we did meet with one member of the flight crew who took the image. The image was of something that I am not able to attach to any human capability, either from the United States or from any of our adversaries. And I'm somewhat informed on the matter, having served on the Armed Services Committee for 7 years, having served on the committee that oversees DARPA and advanced technologies for several years. When we spoke with the flight crew, and when he showed us the photo that he'd taken, I asked why the video wasn't engaged, why we didn't have a FLIR system that worked. Here's what he said. They were out on a test mission that day over the Gulf of Mexico. And when you're on a test mission, you're supposed to have clear airspace. Not supposed to be anything that shows up. And they saw a sequence of 4 craft in a clear diamond formation for which there is a radar sequence that I alone have observed in the United States Congress. One of the pilots goes to check out that diamond formation and sees a large floating, what I can only describe as an orb. Again, like I said, not of any human capability that I'm aware of. And when he approached, he said that his radar went down, he said that his FLIR system malfunctioned, and that he had to manually take this image from one of the lenses, and it was not automated in collection, as you would typically see in a test mission.
Mr. Graves, what percentage of UAP sightings, in your belief, go unreported by our pilots?
This is an approximation based off of my personal experience speaking with a number of pilots, but I would estimate we're somewhere near 5% reporting, perhaps.
Officials at the highest levels of our national security apparatus have unlawfully withheld information from Congress and subverted our oversight authority.
There are certain elected leaders that had more information that I'm not sure what they've shared with certain Gang of 8 members or et cetera, but certainly I would not be surprised.
Okay. You've stated that the government is in possession of potentially non-human spacecraft. Based on your experience and extensive conversations with experts, do you believe our government has made contact with intelligent extraterrestrials?
Something I can't discuss in public setting.
If you believe we have crashed craft, stated earlier, do we have the bodies of the pilots who piloted this craft?
As I've stated publicly already in my News Nation interview, biologics came with some of these recoveries, yeah.
Were they, I guess, human or non-human biologics?
Non-human, and that was the assessment of people with direct knowledge on the program I talked to that are currently still on the program.
And was this documentary evidence, this video, photos, eyewitness? Like, how would that be determined?
The specific documentation I would have to talk to you in a skiff about.
Gotcha. Okay. So, and you may or may not be able to answer my last question, and maybe we get into a skiff at the next hearing that we have, but who in the government, either what agency, sub-agency, what contractors, who should be called into the next hearing about UAPs, either in a public setting or even in a private setting? And you probably can't name names, but what agencies or organizations, contractors, et cetera, do we need to call in to get these questions answered, whether it's about funding, what programs are happening, and what's out there?
I can give you a specific cooperative and hostile witness list of specific individuals that were in those.
And how soon can we get that list?
I'm happy to provide that to you after the hearing.
Super. Thank you. And I yield back.
And just to confirm, this object had no wings, correct?
No wings.
Now, was the aircraft that you were flying, was it armed?
No, never felt threatened at all.
If the aircraft was armed, do you believe that your aircraft or any aircraft in possession of the United States could have shot the Tic Tac down?
I'd say no, just on the performance, it would just left in a split second.
It looks like that we have a problem here that needs further investigation.
Yeah.
For your own experience or the data that you've been privy to, is there any indication that these UAPs could be essentially collecting reconnaissance information? Mr. Graves?
Yes.
Mr. Grush?
Fair assessment, yeah.
Mr. Fravor?
Very possible.
Again, in the national security vein, is it possible that these UAPs would be probing our capabilities? Yes or no, Mr. Graves?
Yes.
Grush?
Yes.
Fravor?
Definitely.
Is it possible that these UAPs are testing for vulnerabilities in our current systems?
Yes.
Yes.
Possible.
Do you feel, based off of your experience and the information that you've been privy to, that these UAPs provide an existential threat to the national security of the United States? Mr. Graves?
Potentially.
Yes, sir, potentially.
Same answer, potentially.
Yeah, I'd say
Fravor.
definitely, potentially.
Mr. Graves and Fravor, in the event that your encounters had become hostile, would you have had the capability to defend yourself, your crew, your aircraft?
Absolutely not.
Sir?
No.
Is, based off of the information that you've been privy to, is there any indication that these UAPs are interested in our nuclear technology and capabilities?
Yes.
By external observation, sure, that could be a fair assessment, yeah.
Mr. Grush, I might have asked this before, but I want to make sure. Do you have any personal knowledge of someone who's possibly been injured working on legacy UAP reverse engineering?
Yes.
Okay. How were they injured? Is it something like a radioactive type situation or something we didn't understand? I've heard people talk about Havana syndrome type incidences. What was your recollection of that?
I can't get into specifics, but you could imagine assessing an unknown unknown. There's a lot of potentialities you can't fully prepare for.
All right. So this is basically, in a nutshell, what they were discussing. And to me, they're pretty big buzzwords. To have crashed aircraft, to have non-biologics, non-human. I've seen some people do some mental gymnastics about trying to kind of explain what that could mean. That doesn't necessarily mean alien, yada, yada, yada. But the importance of this is that to have these kind of discussions finally, of course, to most of us that have been into this for a long time, it's not old news. It's old news altogether. There was absolutely nothing there that was said or talked about that we did not know about in one form or another. But what was interesting is to finally have Senate have these kind of discussions. And so I'm going to play another clip and then give you, just a few more things about, my thoughts about this. But locally, I guess Channel 5 was reaching out to Ozark, and of course Nancy sent me an email saying like, can you handle this? And basically what they were looking for, somebody locally to, a researcher to be able to come down to the station and just talk about it. And so I told him, I said, well, I don't know what you're specifically looking for, but I explained to him who I was and whatnot, and that I was able to, come down and give a statement about what's going on regarding this hearing. What does that mean? And just give him my thoughts on this. And so we talked for about an hour or so, maybe hour, just between, just the station person and I, and really cool guy, and then we recorded about 20 minutes of it and then talked for another half hour afterwards. What's really funny in this clip, you'll see they only used about like 5 seconds of it. And I was aware that they were just going to use whatever fits that part. I really had hoped that they would include some of the other things that what I was talking about in the very beginning of any of this. But anyway, let me show you this, this clip from the local news, and then we'll get back on track.
U.S. House Oversight and Accountability Subcommittee holding an historic hearing on unidentified flying objects, or better known as UFOs.
This is pretty fascinating. Lawmakers heard from 3 witnesses today, including former U.S. military and intelligence community personnel who claim to have come in contact with these objects.
Retired Navy Commander David Fravor testified before Congress about an encounter he says he cannot explain. It's a strange tic-tac shaped object he says he saw in the sky during a training mission in 2004.
The technology that we faced was far superior than anything that we had.
Federal lawmakers from both sides are demanding more transparency from the U.S. Department of Defense.
Lawmakers on today's committee say they like to talk to these witnesses again in a classified setting to learn more. Back here at home, Adnan Adamovic with the Ozark Mountain UFO Conference tells us the hearings help add legitimacy to the subjects.
What it's exciting about is that if you, prior to this, were to talk about this with family members or at the kitchen table, this would be crazy conspiracy. Now it's taken out of that conspiracy realm, and now they can actually look at this in a different light to where, well, hold on. They just talked about it at the congressional hearing, or many of the other hearings they've had, and the one coming up, to where, can you still call it a conspiracy?
The group meets every year in April and will meet again next year, April 12th through the 14th.
They're going to have more to talk about next time with this.
All right. So that was that. And so basically, what I had said that they did include was one of my very first points that I was making is that, well, to get something straight. First of all, for the first time in 75 years, 80 years, the United States government, at least publicly, is finally joining the conversation of UFOs. Or, because prior to this, it was just people like you and I and others, many others, they've just been doing things on their own, trying to get to the bottom of this. So to somehow give all the credit all of a sudden to, to the government and to look at this as if this is just now happening, they're really late to the game, because we've been meeting, having conferences, live streams. There've been, people publishing their research and talking about this for obviously decades now, and just a couple of decades at least when it comes to online. Before the internet took off in the way that it took off. But the second part, I was saying the importance of this meeting is that one of the bullets that all the naysayers, or one of those that are skeptical about this, what they had is they always had the ability to just to say, okay, when you say, okay, there's aliens out there, there's a spacecraft visiting, and they would say, well, Congress would know about this. It's like you think every single person in Congress is going to hide this and they're not going to talk about this. They're responsible to their constituents. And so the whole point of all of that is that, there was always this elusive they, Because whenever we would say they would say, well, who is they? And because we couldn't specifically point, they would just say, see, this is just a conspiracy. You don't have all your facts straight, and things regarding UFOs can just easily be dismissed. What I found interesting is hearing the I guess the announcement for the upcoming, or now at that time it was 4 days before the hearing was coming out, and they had it, conversations, and we were talking about, we need transparency, and we need for this information to come out. And I'm thinking to myself, well, hold on a minute. Aren't all of you supposed to be the ones that have this information that just has to release it? So, like, who are you talking about their potential they? So, like, to us, the government was they. Now to the government, they're kind of using the proverbial they. So, like, who is actually in control? Who is actually hiding this? And so my initial thought was, well, this is just the beginning, but this hearing could potentially bring out they, or whoever they are, that's been basically hiding this and just trying to control it in the way that they've been controlling it. And so that was one of the points I was made, and you heard some of the other points and benefits to what was going on a personal level for people. But anyway, we talked for quite a long time, but those were kind of like the main points that I wanted to bring out to you, or to tell you, because they didn't air it. But anyway, so it's a beginning. It's of course we just want that ship on that White House lawn, and all those aliens to just come right out. But I guess it has to start out on a certain level, because I was sending this clip around to my friends and family, and so my parents were particularly it was really funny. Like, they're not really into this at all, and I don't really inundate them at all with this, and so I just basically sent this clip out just so they know. Well, anyway, my mom, they were kind of busy. My brother was over there and whatever, so she called me back, and she's like, okay, so what was this thing? You were in Congress? I'm like, no, I wasn't in Congress. I just talked to the local news station about what the meaning of this upcoming conference is about, and basically I explained to her that finally the government is talking about bodies, aliens, and crashed and reverse engineered, programs and all this other stuff. And she's like, oh, okay. And, my dad was there, my mom was there. And upon hearing this information, they were so, like, overwhelmed, that the only thing my dad could do is like, all right, well, I'm going to go mow the lawn. And my mom is like, all right, I'm making dinner, so we'll talk later. And it's one of these things to where, I don't know, because that's when I started sitting back and I'm like, all right, so this, to a lot of people, didn't have the effect that it did, so what else then would it be? And that's when I basically I think we were just so inundated over all the decades with all these different movies that unless there's a little green or whatever color, non-human, being standing there next to the president or in front of a camera or somewhere, to where it cannot be ignored anymore, I don't think it will be looked at by I don't know what else to call them, by the normies, I guess. It won't be looked at any more seriously by them. Because what was interesting too, when I sent this clip to many, it was like at least 20 different people, all the feedback coming back was all about like on a personal note, like, oh, you did well, or you didn't stutter, or you didn't say so much. And I was like, okay, well, thank you for that, but do you not realize what that meeting was about? Like, do you understand that what they just talked about in Congress, in the capital of the United States of America, under sworn testimony? Do you understand what was discussed there? And it's like it just didn't enter anyone else's mind. And so I don't know. It's not, for me, it's more intriguing from this puzzling point of view about trying to understand why they didn't react in the way I thought they would react, and not necessarily, anything more emotional about this, like, anger or anything like that. I'm just so puzzled by it. It's like, so if that wasn't enough, what more do you need? So anyway, so that's at least for now. If you haven't seen this, you got the highlights. I actually want to, let me go back to this page And go back to the browser. I want to thank this person now, Ronnie Vernet, that's now X, not Twitter anymore. So the platform is called X, as all of you know. And I want to thank him for basically putting together these different clips of all the highlights, which are perfect, because you don't have to sit through the whole thing. And even if you never heard about UFOs, this was a nice little clip for you to just get the highlights and all the juicy information. So the next thing I want to do is I do have a whole bunch of videos of UFOs captured and some other interesting video, but I want to skip around a little bit because I have Elisa on the other line on Telegram, and I just literally I want to say maybe an hour before the show started, I just put up on Telegram saying, is there somebody who speaks Spanish who could help translate live about these certain Spanish clips, or however I worded it. And she answered back that she would be available, and I was so grateful that worked out. Usually, people need more time and all this other stuff, so I'm very grateful that she's doing this. And the reason why I was asking her is that I noticed that there has been, at least for the past 2 weeks, as I want to say at the end of July is when it became more prevalent, that there were reports that there were some attacks, UFO alien attacks going on in Brazil, and it was happening enough to where media, was basically in uproar about this, and then also recent attacks in Peru. Now, I'm always skeptical, not for the sake of just to be saying no, or this can't be real because I somehow have, a love relationship with aliens. Having gone through what I've gone through on my own gave me an insight and understanding what's happening, and hearing these reports and the way they've been reported is nothing what I had experienced. And what I'm trying to say is that I'm not trying to lump every single alien race out there in one basket, that they all are the same, think the same and all that, but it logically makes no sense about, for one, the interactions that I've had and why, everything was, eventually you get an explanation why it's happening if you go and at it long enough. And not only that, especially with the previous conspiracies and things that have been already talked about, that the government could use this to their advantage, to like Operation Bluebeam and to try to fake an alien invasion, that kind of fit more in that category. And it made me very dubious about, okay, what's going on in Peru and what's going on in Brazil, and why are they reporting about it in the way they are. So anyway, let me unmute Elisa. I'm not sure if she's on yet, but whenever Elisa, if you hear this, if you just unmute yourself on your end, and you should be able to talk to me. But what I'll do is I'll go over to the particular clips first and find them, and then we'll go over and cover some things. Elisa, are you on yet?
I'm on.
Okay, good deal. Well, welcome. Thank you again for doing this. I really appreciate it.
No, you're welcome.
All right. Well, let me see if I can boost you a little bit more. Are you by any chance close to your mic or your phone, whatever you're using to talk to me right now?
Yeah, when I went online, the volume kind of went down. Okay.
Oh, okay. All right.
I raised
Yep.
it some.
You sound better. You just sound better now. Well, so Elisa, I figured I'm gonna go back and start out with. Whoops! I keep doing this. Always skipping through. I'll start out with that clip that we covered before we went live, and then I'll let you then translate for us roughly of what that means. Okay.
Sounds good.
All right. Here we go. Whoops.
Presencia de mosquitos se encuentra en vilo por la presencia de supuestos seres que aseguran son de otro planeta, llamados los Pelacaras.
Pobladores de la tribu Iquitu denuncian ataques de supuestos seres extraños en el distrito de El Alto Nanay.
Como integrantes de una tribu del Alto Nanay, esto está en Loreto, pues aseguran estar aterrorizados. Dicen ser víctimas de misteriosos ataques, sobre todo por la noche.
Lo que ellos también agregan es que podría tratarse acaso de objetos voladores no identificados. Bueno, ellos están pidiendo puntualmente auxilio a la policía y a la Marina.
Okay, Elisa, please go ahead and do tell us what they said.
They said they were possibly in the presence of beings that could have been from a different planet, and they've been experiencing and being terrorized in the middle of the night, and they're hoping to get more help and assistance from the authorities. Pretty much.
Okay. All right. Yeah, good deal.
Strange
Yeah, because
that they can't identify.
got it. Yeah, because I was saying just to have a general, because all of these clips were all in Spanish, so I just wanted a general understanding. So, Elisa, thank you for that. I'm going to play another one here in a second. I just want to address some other things real quick. So, this Ronnie Vernet guy that's on X, he put together another, like a little thread, I guess, of first he put together clips of all of you just heard, and Elisa just translated what they were about, and then different areas in Peru and the Peruvian Amazon jungle of where these different areas and attacks were happening. And then there's, I guess, another newspaper or magazine, I can't make out exactly what this is, but it says the first case was reported near Pucallapa on June 19th at the Maciesa village. 3 teenagers were hit by light beams or lasers that came from an UFO, which caused several burns on their skin. And then there's other videos and other things of whatever was happening here. But let me get to another clip for Elisa, hopefully translate to us. Elisa, here's another one that I'm about to play here.
Hemos tenido la posibilidad de que 2 pobladores desde el distrito del Alto Nanay han llegado a la radio para poner en conocimiento de las autoridades la preocupación de la comunidad en torno a la presencia de hechos bastante insólitos.
Okay.
They were hoping to make the town to have a radio station so they could have more of a understanding of a collection of information so they could present it to the authorities so they could try and get a more understanding what's going on there.
I see. Okay. Well, this one, they do talk, the newscasters talk a little bit, towards the end, but this one will be a little bit loud, and it's apparently, it says the men of the village are doing surveillance at night, armed with shotguns to try and make the community safe. So I guess they were shooting at something or whatever. So I'm going to play this, and then I'll let Elisa explain it to us.
Las noches se han vuelto aterradoras para los habitantes de la comunidad indígena Iquitu, ubicada en la provincia loretana de Maynas, en la región Loreto. Episodios como este se repiten casi a diario en este lugar. Luces que vuelan unidireccionalmente, acompañados de espeluznantes gritos.
Okay. And, sorry. There we go. Should be muted now. Go ahead, Elisa.
It said that the nights are beginning to have more episodes of lights and followed by screams, from what they're absorbing, what they're watching happen. But it's just that it's becoming more common, starting to happen more often.
Got it. And so
I missed a
there's
few
a
words, of course.
right. There's one. It says right here. Part of the description says the community leader, Hero Retugai, or I'm sorry, I'm totally butchering these names, explains the phenomena, characteristics, and behavior regarding what could be non-human luminous beings that are attacking people. And so I'm going to play this. I don't know if this is one of the indigenous people from the jungle, so I don't know if they're actually going to be speaking Spanish. So I'll play it. If it is Spanish, you can translate, please do. If not, then we'll just have played the clip and someone out there who understands would know.
Cara completa como el hombre verde, pero el color es plateado, como una forma redonda, como un platillo, que de ahí se eleva, eso anda a 1 metro, así 1 metro de altura anda, y tiene una luz roja en la parte del talón. Su cabeza es largo, la máscara que tiene es largo, y el ojo, el divisor de ojo, es color medio amarillo. Yo le valió 2 veces y no cae, en vez de que cae se eleva. Autoridades de nuestra región, por favor, necesitamos apoyo el día lo más pronto posible para que vengan a reforzar nuestra comunidad, vengan a sacar a esta gente de acá, nuestra familia no se duerma, están desvelándose una cara completa.
Okay. Were you able to hear that and understand it?
I was a little broken and I got distracted. I thought I heard he said flat flying saucer, but I don't want to say that for sure.
Okay.
Sorry.
Oh, that's all right. All right. And so anyway, Elisa, I think this is it. I want to thank you very much, and I'll leave you be here. But thank you. I can't thank you enough. So
Sorry, I need more practice with this.
I really appreciate it. No, that's all right. Like I was telling her earlier, I was even willing just to have my friend who used to live just for a short time in Ecuador and Chile, just to come on and just vaguely kind of translate what it could mean. Just anybody that could understand more than just I could or someone else. So again, thank you. I really appreciate it. And I know you said you're going to stay on for the rest of the show, so I hope you enjoy it.
Yes. Thank you.
All right. Thanks a lot. All right. So anyway, that's what I wanted to cover about this part, because unless some of you who are watching this right now, if you log into Telegram, like Elisa did, to be able to join me and talk to me about this, or maybe in chat, maybe later, just to give me your thoughts about what are your ideas. I'm saying that if something is happening, is something more local, more earthly that can be explained, and the timing of this just is not right to me whatsoever. I wish, as always, that I would have more concrete information when it comes to that, but it's almost like it's easy. It seems like, okay, why specifically in the jungle? And it was, I think, in the jungles of Brazil and in the Peruvian jungles that this was happening. It's like not happening on, let's say, bigger cities or whatever. It makes no sense. It's like it's set up perfectly to be more about fear mongering, not knowing what it is, and like it's some sort of aggressive animal, instead of talking about, well, these are intergalactic beings that are wise beyond our understanding, and so it's a lot easier to just tap into that fear of, well, this is dangerous, and it's animalistic, and that's what all these different reports, even though whatever little bit Elisa explained and whatever perception you gain from these videos, it's almost like just a hunt for a creature almost. So anyway, I wanted to let you know that's what's been kind of going on. So Brazil and Peru, I don't know if more reports will come out. For those of you who are paying attention or looking at this more, I'm sure you'll find out more, but at least wanted to mention it in case you weren't aware. You are aware now. All right, so the next thing I would like to do is go over some videos that I was able to gather. And other than these descriptions from these different, let's say, UFO hunter, it says UFO captured from a commercial aircraft, and it's basically just, I don't know that I have to play the audio for you, but this is just an unidentified flying object recorded by somebody sitting in an airplane using their cell phone, and it looks cylindrical to me, or unless it's just another airplane and it looks like a cylinder from a distance, and in that case, it's not unidentified, then we know exactly what it is. So I'm just explaining this for those that are listening. And also for those listening, I'm sorry about earlier clip today. There were all these different edits from the UFO hearing, and there were several different people asking questions and questions being answered, and it would shift over. So unless you're watching, it would could be hard for you to follow of who's saying what and whatnot to get the whole context. But anyway, so there's that clip. Let's what do we have next? This one is also a pilot, I believe, and there's a cylinder of some sort is just slowly flying by to the right side of it. And it looks very intriguing. It could be, I don't know what the chances of that are, but it could either be a helium balloon stationary in the air as the airplane is flying by it very quickly, so it will look really weird from this perspective, or it actually is a cylinder, but a cylindrical object flying by, and basically confusing the hell out of this pilot. Let's see what we have here. This one is it says uploaded by unknown, and this is supposed to have been. It says this was originally uploaded on YouTube channel. So this, to me personally, I wanted to show it to you. I think it's CGI. I'm 99.99% sure it's CGI, but it's also some of the things that are going on out there. Because keep in mind, whatever you are not hearing here, or some other people that are taking this, or at least I like to think I'm taking it a little bit more seriously, there is other people that just do this kind of stuff all the time. They're just posting videos that look intriguing and want people's attention, whether it's true or not. And so, again, I don't want to be the gatekeeper of information. At least I showed it to you. I was made aware of this. Look at it. My opinion is that this is fake, but it looks cool. And sorry again, those for you that are listening only, it's basically a very short clip. It's about 8 seconds long, and it's showing two little grays with seemingly black jumpsuits or something, whatever they have on, just slowly walking next to each other, and it looks like they were whatever directions they're walking into. It seems like there's humans accompanying them. So if you are just listening to this, if you have a chance, pop back on YouTube and check it out. And it's supposed to be on the 53rd minute timeline, I believe, if you are wanting to see the video. All right, this is, it says it does not include the split. So this is something that was recorded. It says, let me go back up here. I have to blah, 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 blah. Oh, goodness, come on. Where is it at? Here it goes. It says, this was filmed over Puerto Rico in 2013 near the Aguadilla U.S. military base. Some of you may know it as the split UFO video, as it goes into the ocean and comes back out and splits into two. But this view of it is a little more rare. It does not include the split, but it does show it flying with some very strange characteristics, in my opinion. It is changing shape, spinning or flipping around. That part struck me as odd personally. You be the judge. And so that's a description of this particular video. And it almost, unless it clears up a little bit, it seems to be like that previous video we just saw. Another small object, some cylindrical, others having weird shapes, almost like drones flying around and doing different things. Who knows? Maybe 5 years from now, we'll have more information. All right. What's the next video? So the next video is, some say this is also CGI. It's supposed to be one of the shuttles with two craft pulling up next to it and flying behind the wing. And yeah, especially when you have like these zooming in and out things, and the way that these two orbs or two cylindrical silver shapes, the way they're moving around the space shuttle, it's very suspicious to me. It looks CGI, partially, even with the degraded and pixelated. Oops, didn't want to play the audio because we're not getting much from it. But I'm going to skip forward. See how it's hitting the wing. Let me move my. If you pay attention to this and the way it's kind of almost halfway into the wing before it disappears, it's one of those dead giveaways that's most likely CGI, but looks entertaining nonetheless. Let it play all the way through the end, because yeah, usually this whole zooming in, zooming out, it's almost like a filmic effect where somebody was trying to make it look a little bit more dramatic than usually is. Because in my opinion, NASA, anytime they had stuff like this, their cameras turn away from it. Like a lot of times when you watch the stuff, you finally capture something, the camera just moves on into the blackness of space or somewhere else. It's like, why didn't you follow that, whatever just appeared on camera? But I guess it's just NASA's way of dealing with anomalous things. This is has a top picture of, looks like an armada of different orbs during daylight. They're all white, and just called Fleet of UFOs filmed in Nicaragua. And so the top, it's basically just looks like there's some clouds or pretty like not too heavy cloud coverage, and you see them almost like stars in front of the clouds, just flying around. And there's of course a zoomed in more into what it possibly could be. All right. This one was actually it keeps coming on. This one is it was shot in Miami, and it's actually pretty intriguing. It's hard to tell whether it's fake or not, but I've seen good footage from trustworthy sources that had a very similar movement like this. Again, I'm going to play the audio on this, but anyway, I'll play it, and let's have a look and listen.
Look. So look, y'all thought I was playing. I know y'all see those lights. Look at them. Not them little ones because my little mirror thing scratched up. I know you see those right there, floating. Oh my, bruh, this every day out here, or every night. But still, look at that. Bruh, this really in Miami. I'm not playing. Look, the airport is right over here. That's the airport. You know what I mean? It always got little lights and stuff. You know, it's probably airplanes. But over here, this ain't the airport. Look at that. And them clouds not even moving. How the whole cloud not gonna move? It's just sitting there at nighttime. It's crazy. Look, ain't no other clouds in the sky. But right over here, look at them. And look at those lights. Bruh, y'all could, hey. Oh wait, it's a couple clouds right here. But look, they just frozen too.
Okay, so anyway, for those listening, it's basically just the skyline of Miami, and supposedly, I can't confirm it. I've seen Miami a few times, but I can't recognize it immediately if I saw it again. But these three lights that change shapes. First, they fly in a certain motion, they form a triangle, then they align up to where three lights in a row, and then they switch shapes again and just kind of fly away from the person that was recording and go further and further down. So that's what that video was about. And anyway, for those of you watching, if you have any comments or anything you want to say, I know some of you have already submitted that before, but it's quite a lengthy list. I'm glad y'all are chatting, but it makes it difficult for me having to scroll back trying to find where some of the first questions were. So if you want to make a statement or say something, please put 3 asterisks down and then copy your message again or write it starting now. So I'm going to get into that here very soon. Actually, I'm getting into that right now because I realize I'm at the end. There we go. I'm back to this again. This clip here is what we saw earlier and what Elisa had translated about 30 seconds of it before. And this is more lengthy, 13 minutes YouTube post. So for some of you that out there speaking Spanish could just go in and rewatch it in more details. What is the description about to say? Peru News says invasion attacking of Peruvian tribe 3 days ago. The news reports 7-foot beings attacked a village in Peru before leaving in their ships. If this is true, and sadly it looks legitimate, then it has begun. So this is the statement of this person posting on X. This is not what they said. I mean, this is not the statement given by the news people. All right. Okay, that's pretty much it here. So if any of you, if you have already Telegram, if you signed up for Telegram, I hope you do that now. If you're already part of this channel, you know where to go to chat with me. Otherwise, submit some of your questions or statements and I'll read them and we'll basically have a conversation that way. If not, I guess this will be my first day back. I'm sorry about the little hiccup in the very beginning. I'm hoping that that does not happen again, or knowing maybe for YouTube that I'm officially back, or that they wouldn't take so long in accepting it. All it looked like, it was streaming on all the other platforms, but the data was delayed. Was still in the process of connecting with YouTube until it finally broke through. So I'm glad I didn't stop the streaming, trying to figure it out. All right. Voice chat. Oh yeah, I did forget about this. So anyway, I do have something else to talk about. I totally forgot about this part. So what the reason or what had happened, let me see if I can go back here. Browse and undo. I want to say it's this one. So here I'm playing a video. So there's the TV, my power backup, laptop, camera, router, my hard drive, network switch, my Raspberry Pi, one of my radios, and Elgato that I use basically to get the signal to this computer. All of that basically just one day the internet was out and I thought the router needed reset, and the more I looked into it more and more, I realized I have a long wire, or it's generally called a random wire out there for just using radio for listening, and usually the longer the wire, the more of different signals you can receive. And so I use it for my SDR to just listen to different radios that are just being broadcast around the world, anywhere in the country, different ham radio operators on different frequencies. So it's actually something pretty cool and fun to do if you have some time. But anyway, of all the setup I set up, I totally did not think about that antenna having some kind of safety features to help redirect a potential, or surge or anything like that into the ground outside of the studio here. What I did is I brought the antenna in, then I hooked it up to the ground that then would have had to go through all the different electronics to get back to the main ground or wherever it gets drawn to. And so that's basically the weakness I discovered from all of this, whatever was happening. I don't want to say it was a direct lightning strike, but if it was close by, it was big enough surge to fry quite a lot of things. And so I was very happy about this because what had happened is that the switch and the whole network that I have set up, it's basically what it basically is, every computer that was connected to it, it had the Ethernet port fried. And I was just trying to keep my cool while this was happening, because so many things that were of so much value would have been destroyed if it went full force or in the way that it could have gone. And so thankfully what had happened is it took out the UPS, one of my laptops, which I can live without, and of course some of these other, router and some of these other things, but basically it just killed the port, and it did not affect the computers or the functioning of them. So the streaming computer that I'm using right now, the Ethernet port got fried, but that little Elgato switch you'll see in the video, it was right next to that port, which then that's how you are receiving the signal of camera signal of me. It fried it and then went back through the HDMI into the camera, which then fried the camera. And then of course that TV too. So this being, a metaphysical channel and talking about the things, that I usually talk about, I wanted to actually just give you, for those of you who care, just like a different perspective, different understanding of how I took this. So initially it was very, I don't know, I'm usually a very positive person, but it just drained every little bit of positivity from me when this was happening. You immediately want to go negative, like, oh my God, why is this happening now? But thankfully, the same way I deal with all the other things, I just calm myself down and just use the tools that I've throughout all these, months and 2+ years that I've talked to all of you. I hope you go back to listen to some of this stuff. Use the tools to just kind of analyze this. It's like, okay, I did this. Normal person wouldn't understand how this works, how are coincidences or circumstances connected to your own thoughts. But in a weird roundabout way, I was basically, it played on like a multi-level, right? One, my wife and I were always, we're not rich by any means, but for some reason, we thought, and this is the very, very perfect example that I've always have told all of you about, is we thought, well, let's try to do something different with our finances to where we can save a little so that we have money saved up to do other things, right? Normal people thinking. Well, that's not how we lived our life all the way up until that week or two or so where we decided to make that switch. We just, whatever we had, we would live our lives, go do what we got to do, and there's always something happens, and in this perfect flow to where everything would come our way that we need, however needed. And so we never then, really sat down and tried to make it more like, okay, no, only if we're saving can we have what we want to have. Only if we do this specific step, right? So that was the big thing that we were both, her and I, were putting out. And of course, then what happens? We basically then created an event to where now we needed to save. That saving needed to be used, which was all these things that got fried that then money would have to be spent on. So if you remember what I was always talking to you about the universe and how it's very impartial, it doesn't understand the higher logic. It's only the energy and the things that we put out at that time, which is, we were putting out the energy, the frequency of, we need savings. We need to save. We need to have something, a cash on for something that then, if something happens, we can spend that money on, and any emergency or anything like that. And bam, exactly what happened. The exact scenario that we put out, that we both slipped our minds, happened. Is that now we had savings, and we created a scenario where we needed those savings then to pay for the things that needed to be replaced. And so we both then, after, it didn't happen immediately. I had my time alone here doing what I needed to do. She was doing whatever she was doing there. But then we kind of, after 2-3 days, kind of got together and we're like, we're not doing this again. She's like, it's like, I don't know why we decided to switch and do this silliness in the way, because we know the other way works. We've proved it to ourselves for over all these years that it works. Whether others people believe it, whether you think this is a bunch of BS, that's your thing. I just know, and she knows, that this is exactly what works for us. But a lot of other positive things came from this. Overall, at the ham radio club that I'm part of, there's a weekly net over the radios, and they basically have these lessons and helping newcomers to understand things better and whatnot. And it was perfect opportunity to do what? Learn about how to do proper grounding. So there's something very positive that came out from that. And so it kind of became the subject, of that net for that day, about what went wrong and what you can do to just solidify your shack better. But then the other part too was, amongst many other things, I'd love to just add one more thing to my damn plate, as if I already don't have enough. But it's not necessarily a regret, but it's something I've been wanting to do for over 20 years. When I was during that time, about 14, 15, I was deciding, okay, which direction do I want to go into? And so I chose to do computer science and go software and website development and just all that software world, of computing. But there was also a part of me that wanted to go into electrical engineering, just kind of dealing with circuits and chips and looking at those green boards. It was just something so intriguing about it. Well, anyway, I chose the latter. The first thing, basically, to go computer science and software and programming and all this other stuff, and did that for all these years, to where now I'm at a point to where that's all fine and done and over with, but I'm still not going to croak anytime soon, or not that I know of. And so I decided I want to get back into it, because really it doesn't take much. I just have to get back into, open up a book, start learning about circuitry and diodes and transistors and, capacitors, all of that. And this kind of, in a weird way, opened up this perfect opportunity for me to start working on all of that. So the TV that was fried that I'm looking at right now, which is kind of my feedback screen, I've got to fix that. It was a lot of damage on it, so it was started off simply by just replacing a simple board on it that cost $30. The TV itself was like $250, so that was a pretty cheap repair for that. The other TV that was already broken, I had saved it to fix it at some other time. I spent way more on that when I initially bought it. Well, that took about $20 of just some, diodes, a little chip and all that, and it was me spending the time soldering all that stuff, and bam, that got fixed. And so in this weird way, and I'm kind of going down the line now, in this weird way, it gave me now the chance to use the electronics to go into that direction that I wanted to. So I could bitch and moan about why did this happen, all this stuff that now has to get replaced and all these other things. Or I can just literally go back and look at all the positive things that have come out from this, about now I'm getting into electronics. I figured out what I had wrong out of 1,000 things, the 1,001 thing that wasn't, wired right, and helping other people understand this issue better so that they can learn from my mistakes. And so much more came out from that. And so I'm obviously still going to continue repairing these different devices. Some things, if I can't find help, to do it myself, then I'll, take it somewhere to get repaired, but I'm going to try it on my own, as I've already have with a lot of different devices. So anyway, I wanted to leave all of you with that. So that's why I was gone. That's what I've been doing, basically just replacing camera. The camera I'm using right now is the one you've seen in the video. It's the PTZ optics camera, and I had another one, that I used for a separate project I have here. So anyway, I just replaced those cameras out, tried to make it match like previous footage. I don't know if it looks a bit different to you, if it's brighter, darker, or what, but anyway, it all worked out. And other than just having this little glitch in the very beginning, it just seems like everything else is functioning too. So I'm hoping that next time I start this, it's not gonna have this little hiccup to stream to every other platform, but not YouTube. Okay. Sorry, I know I've asked all of you to submit your stuff, and then I started talking about all these other things. Let me see here. I know I've had another YouTube chat, I think. There it is. Is that it? Maybe. Okay. Yeah, it's what's going on, I believe, right now. Or maybe, or is it possibly an older one? No. All right, well, if this doesn't work out, I guess I can always just go back to reading off my screen. But I just wanted to have some of the chat up there on the screen so all of you just watching can see what everyone else is chatting about. All right, going back in some of these chats, Bradley wrote, Adnan, I find it interesting that they release more information regarding this second ignition for fusion after the UAP hearing. Yeah, definitely something happening behind the scenes. Oh yeah, there was a breakthrough, right, a while back regarding fusion, and they were basically managing to keep it stable for a very short time, or basically achieved over unity, I believe it's called, when you get more energy back than the amount of energy that you put in. And I guess what? So there was another breakthrough there. I was not aware. Let's see who else might have submitted a question or a statement here. Okay, Hazel. Hey, Hazel, how are you? Good to see you. Says, but did he ever go behind closed doors to speak of such? Oh, I believe Hazel is referring to the hearing that we watched in the very beginning. And there was, I'm sorry I don't have the understanding for this term, but they call it skiff. And I believe it's a private room or a secure room where they can discuss top secret things. And I think like you can't take your cell phone in there, and the walls are made out of special stuff. If I'm not mistaken, I hope I'm not giving you the wrong information. But basically, the skiff is that place where either it's a process or a place, or specifically a room where they go into to discuss top secret stuff. And so whether or not they did that, I don't know. I know it was so weird. The Brichette guy, there was Luna and Brichette, the representatives. He posted something on X now about him being not chairing the committee anymore. And I don't know what that meant. I meant to go back to figure out what the meaning of that was. I never did, but it just came to mind soon after the meeting. I would take it that he's not in charge anymore, because he and Representative Luna, they were kind of heading this whole UFO hearing, and I don't know if somebody told him that he's not part of it anymore or can't be part of it anymore. I have no idea, but I don't know. We'll see if more comes out. All right, what else do we have here? Anybody else? Okay, it is tonight's chat. All right, thanks for clarifying. Okay, well, so I think that's pretty much it. Thank you all very much for joining me today again. I'm hoping then to be back every Wednesday at 7 p.m. I will, as always, try to get interviews. If I can't, I'll do open lines. I know it's been a while. I'll try to get back on the schedule, but now you know exactly what's been going on in my life, what's been happening, and I'm glad you're here to be part of it. And I hope these videos help all of you. I know I don't say it rarely, but if you do like the channel, I hope you subscribe, like and share the videos, which of course will help me out even more so. And I appreciate you taking the time to watch and listen to what I have to say and what I have to present. So thank you all. I should be officially back. Please tune in next week on Wednesday, 7 p.m. And I'm hoping I'm not going to have issues with YouTube next time around. But we'll see. Maybe they get them fixed. So again, thank you all. You take care, and I'll catch you next week.